Afternoon. My name's Patrick Kelly. I'm Director of Consulting Services with Victor Davis. We are a data management and analytics consulting firm. Thank you for coming to our webinar this afternoon. This is a webinar in our series, Industry 4.0, the data behind business transformation and how that's needed and all of the impacts within the Industry 4.0 transformation. The webinar will be about 30 minutes, maybe a little bit under. We'll have time for Q&A at the end. It looks like the audio and video is working good, and I can see people there, so please feel free to send in questions and answers, and again, hopefully we'll get to a couple of those at the end. Again, introduction, I'm Patrick Kelly. Thanks again for being here. I've got 20 years of experience project program management, the last 15 in data management and analytics, primarily with companies. I call them asset intensive. I mean, there's lots of equipment being done, lots of operations, plenty of people, both contractors and employees, lots of materials, and usually a lot of scientific and technical data involved as well. Key point though about this webinar is that this is meant to be really industry agnostic. This can be used in any context, but especially I think this goes to Industry 4.0 because I do talk a lot about equipment data and things. At least I've worked in those areas. Why is this important? This is important um, because, and clients know that I say this a lot, um, that data is not for data's sake. It's about the value of the data. The pandemic and all of the issues that have come from it. A key point in this, we've heard data modeling, fairly advanced actually concepts of data modeling being talked about in the general press and by people. Why? Not because data modeling is important or all of that. It's what's behind that, and that's number of cases. What do we do about them? What are the rates, and how are the models showing different things about that? So it's the value to be able to make decisions off of the analysis being done of your data. That's the key thing and the value there. A good business example that I use a lot. It's generic and yet everybody comes across it. Our business needs current and available and accurate customer vendor data. For the data itself, of course not. It's about improving business, and it's about visibility into your business relationships so that those can be strengthened and decisions can be made off of that. It just happens that data innovation and improvement are essential to that effort to be able to have productive and valuable relationships with your customers and with your vendors and suppliers. That's the key thing. Not saying, oh, let's go clean up our database. It's why are you cleaning it up? And that's really the key value. So it looks like everything's good. Let's keep going. So transformation is big. We talked about that. Key is starting small, and that's what this presentation and webinar is all about. Identifying the critical and visible use cases so you can deliver value quickly um, and move forward from there. Um, Remember, this is critical and visible to the core of your business. And so business critical, whatever euphemism you want to use, staying in business, licensed to operate, all the health, safety, and environmental factors that your business has to do, and then your core mission. What do we do in operations? And we'll talk about that a little bit later in the webinar as well. Just because it's critical and visible doesn't mean it has to be huge. There's so many valuable component parts to doing business, to staying in business. Um, one example that I've had in my past that was critical and visible, um, Schlumberger. And they won't mind me using their name because I can actually pronounce their name. Um, Schlumberger does a lot of business with a number of companies in industry, and they have lots of entities underneath that corporate umbrella. You can imagine many times Schlumberger is misspelled, and or miscoded. You would think it's a straightforward thing with data automation. Everything's just easy. Press a button. Not really. This was a while ago, but still an issue. So a pretty senior VP was trying to figure out P&L amongst a number of vendors and a lot of equipment, and this was always a hassle to try and collect the data, not just to do the analysis, but just to collect the data to be able to have a report about what was going on. So the effort was to clean that up, and the point in this context being, this wasn't an MDM transformation project effort. This was just a point fix with people who knew the issue to be able to have that addressed, which it was. So it wasn't an entire MDM project to fix that. It's not to say there aren't a lot of issues that were also around, but that one caught the attention. Significant issue, small enough to be able to pop it in a project, work on it specifically, succeed, and move forward from there. So with that, there are some do's and don'ts to keep in mind with this. General general good thoughts, hopefully. The first one is, don't sell it as we're going to fix all the data. That goes to what I've been talking about a bit. Um, it's about making data better, but not making everything better and everything's going to be fantastic once we do this. That's not it. Um, don't ask what data we need to fix without asking deeper questions about that. So lots of complaints sometimes about data. Why can't I get an accurate report about spend and what equipment we're using from Schlumberger and what are they using? Um, that's the type of question that starts things going. So the data's bad. Okay, how is it bad? What's the issue? So being able to identify the issue that's causing the problem and going into it. Don't just say we need to fix this. Ask the questions to get the right amount of detail. And don't just pick a system or a data store just because it's always been a problem. Oh, that system, can't do anything with it. It's always been a problem. We just need to go solve it and fix it. So those are things not to do. What should you do? What are some quick points about here are things you can do to be able to start small and succeed? Um, Ask the questions. What information do we need? Do we use to deliver mission critical value? What's our business all about? Broad question, but you can dig from there to be able to find those specific questions that are probably causing issues. What are the business impacts of not having that data, that information right now? It definitely impacts decision making. That's for sure. If you don't have the current and reliable analysis of where you are and what's going on, then you can't make decisions about what's going forward. And from there, this goes to the starting small, identify something, but then ask the right component questions, the granular level to be able to figure out what do we need to answer and address. Um, a lot of these, some of these are probably already going on in your organization, and that goes to the remote workforce and business continuity. So through the pandemic, everyone's been working remotely, working from home. In fact, Victor Davis has a webinar available online specifically about work from home considerations around security, around the network, and infrastructure about that. And we've included a link to that presentation here. Companies with a business continuity plan, a BCP, they're using it. It's great to have one. You really need to have one. Is it really addressing the key impacts to operations? Especially, I'll point out with the pandemic, but also specific data considerations. Um, Most BCPs focus on events of destruction. So you think disaster recovery. You think, oh wow, we lost power to whatever facility. We lost all of these systems, or this asset. Um, this pandemic, the greatest issue is isolation. So we can't get to offices. We have issues with IT and networking infrastructure that's required to operate remotely. And then think about the data impacts of that. So these are the business critical use cases that are probably flying around. Um, when the lockdown started, what was the initial focus in your organization? Very likely it was everyone saying, we've got to keep the lights on. What do we need to do to keep the lights on? Whether you have a BCP or not, that's what it's about, keeping the lights on. What do we really need to do? It got to the point of uh, here's what we have to do. So it was triage of operations, which is actually a needed practice in any time. What are we doing? How are we doing it? How best can we do it? And the data considerations and requirements around those, which is what we're talking about here. From that standpoint, it goes into a question consideration of data classification, and that's all about access. Um, who can have access? Um, what access is needed? And now that everybody's working from home, what does that look like? Data classification identifies that level of security and privacy protection that needs to be applied to data, and the scope in which it can be accessed and or shared. Um, who has access to, and what is the sensitivity of that data? So going back to a simplistic type of case, where is that report? I need to access this report because I need to do whatever with it. And the question might come back, wait, who are you? Why do you need to access these? Should you have access to these? And then another comeback of, wait a minute, where did those numbers come from? And you can imagine that in a Zoom meeting now. Haven't you had that in any type of meeting where you've talked about reports and questions come up about, wait a minute, where did that number come from? How did we get that? What system was used? Who were the people putting that together? And going through all of that discovery or rediscovery, which is completely non-productive, a completely non-productive time. So that's something that should be done in good times, normal times, whatever those are, as well as now. Data discovery, classification, and lineage for for your vital use cases. And again, it's not data classification for everything. You start with what's important. Um, what do we need to report to the SEC? What do we need to report to this regulatory body? How do we know that all of our employees are operating in a safe manner? Anything through that. And who needs access to that data? Who can access it? Who should write that data? And how is that data handled on a case by case basis? So that's the substance of the webinar, and we've got a bit of time. So I've seen a couple questions come in, and Allison, I will let you read these off on the screen, and we will go from there. So let me know what's coming in.
So the first question is, we're currently facing corporate budget cuts and staff cuts. How do we do this with these types of constraints?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, lots of budget and staff have been cut, especially in this environment. This goes to business critical, regardless of budget and people getting cut. There are a number of essential things that have to continue and that have data as a key component of being able to do them well. So I think this question it goes to two things. First of all, how can we sell this? We know it needs to be done, and then the second, how can we actually do it? The first one selling it are the key points that I've talked about a little bit, which is critical and visible. If it's visible to executives who are there and looking at things, then that and it needs to be fixed, and they see the importance of it. There's your business case without quantification of it. Then narrowing that down to starting small, that means the budget and effort to be able to do that comes down a lot more, and it comes into precisely asking questions about, okay, what's the issue, or what's causing the issue. We know what the issue is. This report, we can't get it right, or these people don't have access to this data, whatever it is. It's mission critical, gotta do it. Then it's scoping it so that it is starting small, putting it in pieces, and the justification is simple. This will bring value. It's essential to the business, and then it will bring value. We'll see rewards from it. So Allison, what's the next question?
The next question is, we have a ton of paper and legacy data and now really need to access. What can we do?
Oh, wow. Yep. A lot of paper, legacy data, and you've got to get to it. What can we do? So again, that's a big transformational type problem, and being able to start small with it, it goes back to what we've been talking about in terms of asking the right questions. So this is an awful example, but it's one that I've heard a few times now. This has been an HR just nightmare in a lot of ways. The work from home pandemic, all the issues with that, and then the workforce considerations of that. We have to let people go. We have to move people around. We have to partially furlough salaries. Whatever all of that is, there's usually paper behind it, and legacy data or data on legacy systems. So um, taking it small, we the the solution, or a solution, and we've worked on it in pandemic times and out of pandemic times, is digitization of that data. So, okay, we're letting 20 people go, or we're canceling these contracts, um, or we actually need additional contracts, whatever it is. And now, from the work from home environment, we can't get access to it. We need access to it, digital access to it. And it's not just, oh, great, I've got the scanned image. It needs to have value with that data. And that's what we've worked on, basically, working around to be able to digitize that legacy data, have metadata with that. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds, but just so you know and can work with that data versus say, oh, we've got a scanned file image for this. Um, I hope that answers the question. There are absolutely things in a start small and accelerate fashion that can be done with that. Next question, Allison. We still have a bit of time.
All right, so the last question I have for you is, we fix things all the time, but we still have issues. Some of them are the same issues. How do we get closer to a solution?
Oh, yeah. Fixing things all the time. We're always fixing things. We fix them, and then we still have issues. Um, absolutely. Um, it, that goes to it goes back again to starting small and well defined. Because with that, what you're working on and solving is going to be, hopefully, is going to be, first of all, a solution that sticks, sustainable. You don't see this issue again. And there's a bit of work around that in being able to sustain that and having good data management practices around that, a sustainable infrastructure around that, and the right thinking, right thoughts of what analytics capabilities you need for that solution, and having it keep going so that it's the new business, the new BAU. Um, After that, it's growing from that solution, um, taking everything that's been put into place, being able to model. Okay, what have we done? And now we can answer this question. It's not an issue anymore. We have this capability. It's not an issue anymore. Um, we can move forward and look at, okay, what's next? What can we do? How can we scale our capabilities in data management maturity so that we move forward and we don't keep retreading? That is a big issue. That's a great question to come in. It looks like, I think that's going to be about all the time we have. Hopefully, all the other questions, Allison, and we've been collecting, and we'll have answers for those in some fashion. I don't know if it'll be me getting on camera again. Hopefully not. Probably a communication directly to the senders personally, but then we'll genericize it, so not to use names or anything, and distribute that to all the attendees. So with that, I'm going to move on to the summary and conclusion. A couple of key points. Um, Data is not for data's sake. This is all about the value of data, and it's about your business surviving and thriving. Critical visible use cases, defined well, small enough to deliver value quickly, important enough so that value is recognized, and then sustainable, keep it going. Do's and don'ts: don't try and solve the world or sell solving the world. That's really big as, as we know it. Um, be able to start small with business things, people, and data that are visible enough, and to go forward with it, asking questions and being able to scope this and deliver in a proof of concept fashion. That's important. So and just that list of do's and don'ts. And this has already probably been going on in the work from home environment and business continuity. I won't call it workarounds, but this pandemic has been one giant workaround that now we're putting lots of things into place so with that, I think that's all of the time we have. Definitely don't want to go over. Thank you again so much for attending. I hope you have a good afternoon. My contact information is there. Our firm's information is there. Please feel free to reach out to me and us with anything. And thank you again. And I look forward to doing this again. Take care.
Thank you for an excellent presentation, Patrick, and thank you everyone for your attendance today. We believe data is the foundation of business solutions. The remainder comes through your team's leadership and the collective experience we call culture. The Victor Davis VQD Data Delta method and playbook combines your company culture with trusted data to provide an actionable solution, creating measurable business outcomes. Working together, we can deliver information supporting actions to achieve your strategic objectives. Comprehensive data-driven solutions exist for nearly any business challenge. Reach out, we will listen and discuss options. Thank you.